Hi, I'm Nikki Woods, and we are going beyond the studio with Kevin Special K. Do we do air quotes?
You can
Special
do that.
K
You can do that. Special K.
Daily. He is here with a new book called I Never Stopped Smiling, but there is a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Much more than the book.
Let's pick the good things.
Let's pick. Welcome to the Red
Thank you
Velvet
for
Cake
having me.
studio. So let's start with this. Tell me. Well, no. Let's start here. You are a former Harlem Globetrotter, so people may recognize you. I mean, you're a Guinness World Record holder. I haven't met many of those.
Yeah.
You were with the Globetrotters for 10 years, and you have had an esteemed basketball career. I think you just retired in April, correct?
Yeah, I just retired in February, actually.
February.
And I was the captain and leader of the team for 10 years. Wonderful 10 years. But I decided to retire because I had some other goals that I wanted to do. And one of them was to write this book.
And so why did you decide to write the book?
Well, my story is so unique, and I went through so many things that for other people, they probably would think that I shouldn't have achieved the things that I achieved.
Right.
And I say others because I always had goals, and I knew I was going to make them no matter what. So I decided to write it down, and so hopefully it will help others that are trying to achieve things, that have been through some stuff. You know, my story is all about overcoming adversity. So I was able to reach a lot of my goals, and I'm pretty sure that anybody can do it, and I want to show how I did it, so hopefully it will help others.
And I know I did a lot of, looking online to try to figure out things about you. And that's probably one of the things that they said almost as much as basketball was motivate, and how you are always out in the community and you're doing things and you're talking to people, especially young people, and encouraging them. I saw a really cute story about you where you went to go visit a kid and now he calls you his big brother, but you all were taking selfies in the car and you were doing, and they were so touched by that, and they wanted people to know that you really do care about people.
Yeah, his mom had reached out to me because he was being bullied, and I just felt like there was something that I should do. So I decided to next week just fly out there to Ohio, and I spent the whole day with him. I spoke to the teachers, the superintendent, and I did my anti-bullying presentation that I do at schools. I did it over there at the schools and the surrounding schools. And it was really, really a wonderful day for me and for him.
Yeah.
And now he is my little brother, and I talk to him all the time. I was just Skyping with him about 2 days ago.
I think you wore his hat or something, his game hat, his team hat.
Yeah,
It's very cool. So let's talk about the book, because like you said, I mean, a lot of people thought that maybe you shouldn't get to where you are because of some of the things that started very early on in life. So I want to start there. 3 years old. First of all, you're from Panama. So
yes, Panama City, Panama. A lot of people don't believe I'm fluent in Spanish, but I am.
Well, you can hear the accent.
Yeah, at times you can.
Yeah,
Right.
I bet when you get mad, it really...
Yeah, I don't want to get mad.
My mother's Jamaican. We always tease her. You hear the accent when she goes home and when she gets mad. Then you're like...
Exactly.
Okay. So, but at 3 years old, your world really changed. Tell me about that.
Well, when I was 3 years old, like you said, my mom committed suicide. She was depressed and going through a lot of things, and it's always been tough. And writing this book was really therapeutic for me because it was so hard for me to talk about it. And after writing the book, I felt so much better. And I'm 38 years old now, and I decided to write the book about 5 years ago when I started. And up to that point, I could never talk about it. Could never talk about it. Grown man couldn't talk about it, but this helped me so much, and I'm so happy that I finally did it.
Yeah, and I think what touched me was you kind of talk about it from everybody else's perspective, because you were only 3. And you say you really don't have memory of the actual incident, but how it's affected you. But just hearing how your father, finally went upstairs and saw the bed and that it was empty, and he knew that the woman that he loved was gone, and talking to your brothers. But you also say that even though you don't have actual memory of it, it has affected you your entire life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, it has, because I never had a mother figure in my life. I have 2 older brothers, and it's my dad. My dad took care of all 3 of us by himself, never remarried. And so I was always lacking the mother figure in my life. I had a lot of male figures in my life, and a wonderful one with my dad. He taught me how to take care of business no matter what. It wasn't easy, but he did it. I'm here today. My older brothers are doing well and no trouble or anything like that. So and just hearing and seeing other kids with their mothers growing up, it was very, very tough. And since my dad was working so much, I spent a lot of times with my brothers, and they're older, so once they moved out, it was just me. You know, it was just me by myself. So at times that was difficult. And basketball is really what kept me going the right direction.
So eventually, I think at the age of 12, you came to the United States, LA,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
And so what interested you in basketball? How did you make the connection?
Well, I was playing basketball before, but I fell in love with basketball because that's one of the sports that you can play by yourself. Exactly.
My son says that all the time. You can play it by yourself.
Yes, you don't have football, you need somebody else, baseball, everything. So I could go to the gym. I could go to the park. It was the park outside, actually, at the time. You would see me bouncing my basketball all the time. New Year's Eve, I'll be out there. Everybody's screaming, Happy New Year's. I'm out there on the basketball court. So that's why I fell in love with basketball.
Do you think that basketball is also one of the reasons that gave you kind of the self-discipline you needed to get through some, because you had tribulations and trials after that. It wasn't just your mother dying. Do you think basketball gave you the discipline and the mental, I guess, fortitude to make it through?
It was definitely, besides being scared of my dad.
Yeah. and somebody else's dad. I want to talk about that coming up too.
Oh,
but
yeah. That was one. But I never wanted to do anything that would take me away from basketball.
Right.
I knew that if I didn't take care of my grades, I wouldn't be able to play basketball. If I did anything that would take me away, jail or anything like that, I wouldn't be able to play basketball. So nothing out there was going to stop me from playing.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I liked about this book too is that, I mean, you wrote it in 3 parts, kind of. And there's some points that are really, really emotionally hard to read, I think, for anybody that's been through anything. But there's some really funny stories in here too. Like that, I was talking about the father. You went to some little girl's house.
In the 8th grade.
And Daddy came home.
Yeah, and I was hiding in the closet. Yeah. I was going to jump out the window, but it was 4 stories up.
You thought you were going to die that day, right?
Yeah. That's the name of the chapter, Looking into the Eyes of My Murderer.
Yeah, and I was really prepared for like some kind of gang activity or something. And when I got to the end, I was like, oh my goodness. And I know you have a daughter.
I do. I have a 9-year-old.
You think about these things?
I do. She's 9 years old, so I'm starting to talk to her. When she was a little bit younger, she was scared to tell me anything about any boys because she felt that I was going to be mad. So I had to kind of retrain her mind, let her know it's okay. I'm not going to be mad unless this guy is treating you in the wrong way. And so she's great. So every now and then she tells me this little boy or whatever, and I hold it all in and smile and say, does he treat you right?
At 9.
Yes.
We're still trying to figure that out many years later. And I don't want to give it because I definitely want you guys to pick the book up. You can get it. It's available on Amazon. But tell me, after you moved to the United States, what was the biggest challenge for you?
I had several challenges, as you know, but one of them was the racism that I encountered that I didn't know anything about in Panama. I mean, I knew that I was a black person, but in Panama we see each other as equals, and here it was such a shock, and such an early age. That was very difficult, especially since I had an accent. So a lot of kids will try to make fun of me, but I'll just make fun of them right back. So that was a challenge. Also, a big challenge was the school, the gangs, and all that. I wasn't used to that. That was a little difficult too at times in LA. Again, in Panama, I grew up in such a tight community that we all were like family. We would go into each other's homes, and sometimes I leave the door open. And so out here, you can't do that. So those were 2 of the major challenges.
And so is the difficulties that you had in school, is that what gave you such a passion for helping students that have been bullied and younger kids that have been bullied?
That's one of them. Another one, parents just started reaching out to me about these kids being bullied. And I started doing a lot more research and reaching out to the kids myself, and I saw that it's a big problem. And after reaching out to some kids and saw the positive effect that I had on those kids, I said, you know what, I need to do something about this. So that's when I started my anti-bullying program called STOP. and I go to the schools. The school call me, and I do presentations and talk to the kids, and that's why I have that wonderful website, StopTheBullying911.com.
Right.
And it just became a passion because of the positive effect that I've been able to do.
Gotcha. Well, the book is called I Never Stop Smiling. Like I said, 10 years with the Harlem Globetrotters. And there's a video where you can see Kevin trying to teach people how to spin the ball on their nose. You're lucky I don't have one in the studio today.
I should have brought one.
Yeah, you should have. I would have loved to have learned that. But also at the back of the book, which is, like I said, it's kind of written as a trilogy, there's 21 keys to success that Kevin has. And if you just read that part of it alone, it's worth the purchase price for this book.
And I'm also excited about the a goal-setting workbook that I created too. You can also find it on Amazon.com or Kevin Daly Books. And this is just the ways that I was able to reach some of my goals. So I wrote it down, and hopefully it's very good for young kids, maybe high school age or so and above. It's very, very good. So I'm very proud of it.
All right. So Amazon.com, KevinDalyBooks.com. You can pick up both of these books. Thank you so much for coming in.
It's my pleasure. I'd like to tell anybody out there that you can reach me at MRTrotter21 on Twitter. I follow back, I retweet and all that, and I interact.
He makes sure that you read the book, right? He asks you if you finished the book. Yeah,
yes,
you did good. Yes. So we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Nikki Woods. We've gone beyond the studio with Kevin Daly, Special K, on BlackAmericaWeb.com.